Friday, February 21, 2014, 6:56 a.m. Well, it's finally here, my first workday in Melbourne. I have to say, I've greatly enjoyed the time off. When I think about it, this has been the first real holiday I've had in years. Even Kylie's and my trip to Thailand involved me constantly checking into my emails, calling clients, drafting pleadings on the laptop at our villa, and generally putting out various small fires. By contrast, these last few days have been sheer bliss. I've been sleeping in, having a leisurely breakfast, then catching the tram down Lygon Street into town just as Mrs. Chu suggested. One of the first things I've managed to do is scout out where my new workplace will be. It's on Burke Street, which is typical of Melbourne's centre, a mix of old and new buildings, tall leafy plane trees with their mottled trunks, cars jostling each other on the road ahead of vintage trams with ringing bells. McMahon's offices are in one of the modern glass high-rise buildings. The reception is on the 30th floor. I've gone down there a couple of times already, so I know exactly where I need to be a bit later on this morning. One of the first things I did after my Skype conversation with Frank was to go to the safe in the walk-in robe and fish out the Nationwide Bank Visa card. Next to it, scrawled on a post-it note, were the words, "Your new nickname," which I presumed to be Fen. Of course, I knew Fen to be code for 6514, the same as the house alarm. And sure enough, that pin worked when I tried it at an ATM. What was even more surprising to me was the amount of money in the account. I expected there to be a few hundred, maybe even a couple of $1,000. Instead, I found it had $257,823,141. Uncle Frank is rich indeed. Correction, I am rich, although I know that I couldn't possibly access the bulk of this money without some form of identification as Fenyops Picklejig, which I'll have to get through Frank. For the time being, I've contented myself with drawing just enough to buy groceries and a few essentials, like a MyKey card for public transport in Melbourne, a briefcase for work, a new mobile phone, and a tablet. Okay, the last bit was a luxury. Oh, and I couldn't resist buying some new work clothes. My shirts and suits were all back to front anyway. Of course, while I was in town, I popped into Nationwide's main rival, East Bank, and opened up an account with them. I'll be getting my salary paid into that, and then I'll transfer the bulk, though not all, of the money to D1's account. I figure that I ought to repay the money I've taken from Picklejig. For some reason, I still can't believe it's mine. Until I'm sure it's all kosher, I'll replace any money I've spent, and otherwise live off my Melbourne earnings. I'll have more than enough to fulfill my needs. Apart from that, I've spent my days exploring. Chinatown starts a bit farther down Burke, Little Burke, and Lonsdale streets, which all run parallel to each other. There I've enjoyed yum cha lunches, sipped green tea, and snacked on Macau-style egg tarts, browsed specialist Asian stores, and generally savoured the sights, sounds, and aromas. Ducks hanging on hooks, heavy pots pouring steam onto the sidewalk, horns honking over a throng of busy pedestrians, the sickly sweet smell of incense, spice, and rotting garbage. I've also been to the bustling, noisy Queen Victoria markets. Actually, this is the first place I went to on Tuesday, and both the Melbourne Museum and Science Works, where they had 3D printing and teleportation exhibits, which I found amusing. I've gone down to South Bank, where I visited the Melbourne Arts Centre, eaten bratwurst hot dogs, while strolling along the banks of the Yarra, had tea and cheesecake at a riverside cafe, and watched the remake of The Secret Life of Walter Mitty. The original film was so much better, particularly since it featured my hero, Danny Kaye, at the Village Cinemas in the Crown Casino complex. But the holiday is now over, and I'm staring at my mirror image self in the bathroom mirror. I have to say that I'm almost completely used to it now. It's not entirely unlike adjusting to a radical haircut. At first you do a double take every time you pass your reflection, but after a short while you stop noticing. This morning I'm examining a small acne bump on my jawline, as I might ordinarily do. I finish shaving, go to my cupboard, and take out a new Armani suit and cotton shirt, a matching silk tie, and shiny Lokes business shoes. After dressing, I head down to the kitchen, where I sit at the bench, and I have my cereal and toast, while reading The Age on my tablet. Bugsy is on the bench top next to me, delicately burying his flat face into a bowl full of biscuits and fish. It feels like we've been here for years. 7:37 a.m. As I finish loading the dishwasher, I decide that I really should head down to the basement and check the emails. I've heard only sporadically from D1, and I wonder if everything is still okay. Besides, he'll want to know that everything is in order here in Melbourne. As a matter of interest, I haven't told D1 about the money in the Picklejig account. I decided it would be too risky to commit any such thing to writing, knowing he has Wanneroo emails forwarded to his phone, which Kylie might easily pick up. So I've been deliberately vague, mentioning that luckily some money has been left here for expenses until I get started. When I get to the computer, I see that a message is already waiting for me. Hi, D2. Hey, good luck for your first day at work, dude. Should be a change from this place. Just thought I'd let you know that everything is running like clockwork back at the old HQ. As we suspected, Kylie's gone and told her mum and our mum about the secret promotion. She says she told them it was to be kept strictly confidential, otherwise it would botch the deal. Narkis said he thought I'd made it all up, but Tula and mum believe me. Kylie swears she hasn't told Yvonne and Leanne, but I reckon she's full of it, don't you? But dude, I have some seriously cool news. Luck is changing for both of us. You know CIQ's potash mine in Malaysia? It looks like negotiations are breaking down with some local subcontractors, and they want someone to go up and help with the legal side. Dixon suggested Brad, but he had to be admitted into hospital overnight. It seems he's having some sort of problem with his spleen. They don't know what yet. They're having to do a lot of tests on him as we speak. It was detected quite by chance when he went into A&E for Eiffel syndrome. You know that strange condition he seems to suffer from time to time? Anyway, Dixon has reluctantly agreed to send me up there instead. I leave for KL on Monday. I'll be there for a couple of weeks, maybe even a month. Woo-hoo! Of course, I told Kylie and Mum it is all part of the secret promotion, because it came up just as Brad was going into hospital. He doesn't even know about it. Anyway, it looks like we're both going to be having an adventure. Let me know how you go today, D1. I create a new message with type-haltingly but reasonable accuracy. Hey D1, I'm about to head off. I know the place by heart now, so everything is going to be good. Don't worry. I've got a new mobile phone number, which I'll text you. Getting used to this typing, but it's still not easy. A bit like driving on the right after driving on the left, I suspect. That's fantastic news about KL. Talk about luck. Any chance Brad might die from this spleen thing? That would be even better luck. We'll write a text after at work, D2. I press send and look down at my now back-to-front analog watch. I haven't bothered reprinting this. I get the feeling it'll be quite the talking point. I see that it is 7:48 a.m. I have just enough time to get to the tram at 8 a.m., so I'd better run. I grab my briefcase, jacket, and the house keys and head out of the door. The coolness of the air hits me immediately, as does the smell of impending rain. I should have brought an umbrella. The sky is milky white. What a difference to Perth. My experience so far is that it should be okay. I think I'll make it to the tram without being pelted. Melbourne tends to give you just enough warning of its intentions, even if it often delivers 4 seasons in one day. My departure has a touch of the Truman Show about it. I pass Mrs. Chu, who is getting into her car. She says, "Good morning, Mr. Picklejig." She assumes that is my surname, and I reply, "Good morning to you, Mrs. Chu, and have a great day." She waves, reverses out of her garage, and I see her car pull off down our narrow street, the exhaust billowing smoke as she changes gears. I feel a few droplets of rain hit me, so I make a run for Lygon Street, where, moments later, I'm under the cover of a shop awning, sheltering from a light drizzle, and waiting for the tram. It is now 8:01 a.m., and the tram will arrive in 2 minutes. I'm totally on schedule. 8:29 a.m. I'm entering the McMahon's building on Burke Street, passing through one of those circular doors where you always feel that if you don't walk fast enough, you're going to have your shoes pinched off at the heels and your backside smacked. No sooner am I through the doors than my gaze falls directly on Justine, who has clearly been watching me enter. She's standing in the center of the foyer, smiling broadly. She waves. I wasn't feeling at all nervous up till now, but suddenly I feel my chest thumping on the wrong side, and the pressure in my head increasing so that the background din is replaced with a high-pitched tone in my ears. "Justine, great to see you again." I can barely hear my own voice, and I'm starting to feel lightheaded. If she notices, she doesn't register. "Oh, Dan, I was so pleased to hear that you would be joining our firm. What a wonderful surprise." Justine is extending her long, slender hand towards me. I notice once again her long fingers, and in particular, her unusually straight thumbs. Instinctively, I start to raise my left hand. This mirror thing seems to have the most unexpected consequences. Then abruptly, make out that I was just grabbing my briefcase. Again, Justine seems oblivious to my discomfort, as I finally take her cool, dry hand in my right. Thankfully, I haven't gotten nervous enough to start sweating yet. "I had no idea you were planning on moving to Melbourne," she says. "Oh, well, after my uncle passed, I started to reevaluate a few things. You know, time to change my life and all that. By chance I saw your firm's advertisement and applied. And here you are." Justine's voice is more audible now. The noise in my ears is receding. "Here I am." I cringe inwardly at the odd pitch my voice strikes. I probably held her hand a moment too long, so I let her go. She uses it to comb an invisible strand of her silken hair away from her face, and continues speaking seamlessly. "When did you fly in?" "Oh, on Sunday. I'm staying at a friend's house in Prince's Hill." I gesture to what I assume is north, but is in fact west. As I say this, Justine beckons me to the elevators, and we start walking towards them. I can hear the click of my new Lokes shoes against the marble floor. "Prince's Hill? My, that's very convenient. And you flew in on Sunday? I heard you only just had the interview last week. You obviously move very fast." I just smile. I really don't know what to say. Before I can mumble something, she adds, "So, have you had much of a chance to look around town yet?" "Actually, I've had quite the holiday this week, you know. Going to museums and markets and so on." We enter the elevator, and Justine swipes the card that hangs around her neck and presses 30. "Some shopping, perhaps?" She turns her head slyly as her almond eyes briefly scan my suit, a smile hinted at one corner of her ruby-red lips. For the first time since I've entered the building, I feel a hot flush. "Yes, a new suit. Couldn't resist." I laugh nervously. "Armani. You have great taste. Loving the shoes, too." The elevator stops and a few people come in, separating us. There's an awkward silence as 3 floors pass and the people get out. Then Justine says, "I hope you don't mind me saying, but you look different somehow from when I first saw you. I can't quite put my finger on it." "Oh?" I'm feeling a few beads of sweat welling on my brow and go to wipe them with my handkerchief. Justine is leaning back against the polished rail, her legs and arms crossed casually, one hand at her chin as she ponders me. "Is it that I'm not sweating quite as much?" I ask, laughing. "No, don't be silly." She thinks for a while longer, and eventually she raises her finger in triumph. "I know, you've combed your hair the other way." I take a deep breath. How in the world did she pick that up? She guffawes. "Don't look so surprised. We women specialize in details, don't you know?" The elevator winds to a halt, and the door opens at the 30th floor. "I'll tell you something else. You look a whole lot more rested. Melbourne obviously agrees with you, says Justine, as we step out into the reception area of McMahon Finkelstein Braddock, solicitors. 8:52 a.m. Everyone, this is Dan. Justine waves her arm at me in a flourish. He'll be joining our team here in Property Division. I'm standing in a paralegal work area on the 32nd floor. Half a dozen people come up and shake my hand. As has been the case for the last 20 minutes, I'm flooded with handshakes, welcomes, and names I couldn't possibly remember. I see an office door opening and recognize Branka, who smiles warmly as she walks towards me. Dobrodošli, she says. I know enough Shtokavian dialect to understand that she is saying welcome and doing it in a very polite, formal way. Hello, Branka. It's great to finally meet you in person. Likewise. Have you been shown your office yet? We were just getting to that, says Justine. Saving the best till last. Ah, good. Now, Justine, dear, I know you have a meeting starting very soon, so you should go to that. I can take it from here. Besides, Ian will also be down any minute to say hello. The last sentence seems to act as some sort of catalyst for an abrupt change of mood. Oh, okay, thanks. Justine touches my arm and says quietly, We'll catch up later, and rushes off before I can say anything in reply. Branka has turned around and is leading the way. I'm still puzzled by Justine's sudden departure, and wonder if I've done anything to offend her. Branka half turns and seems to sense my discomfort. Come with me, Danilo. Can I call you that? Yes? I nod. Although my birth name isn't actually Danilo, I'm fairly used to Slavs calling me by this variant. It's almost as if they can't cope with the notion that someone with a Slavic surname might have an Anglo-Saxon first name. In any event, it feels somehow endearing. As we get to a door, she pauses and gestures. Here we are. I hope you will find it very comfortable. I can see it will be very comfortable indeed. It might be relatively narrow, but it has a long and very functional desk extending down its length. Shelves above provide ample room for storage and have a massive monitor with an ergonomically adjustable keyboard holder. I walk to the window where I finally put down my briefcase and stare out at the panoramic view of bustling Burke Street far below. This is absolutely stunning, thank you. You are more than welcome. We are very happy to have you with us. Now I want you to meet someone else. I turn to see a young man hovering behind Branka. This is Silvio. He will be your professional assistant. Silvio steps forward and extends a hand. He's a thin young man, dark, earnest, with a big smile and even bigger teeth. I have no idea what a professional assistant does. As if she's reading my mind, Branka continues, Silvio will look after you. He is part of the team, but he's your right-hand man. He knows the ropes, so don't hesitate to ask him anything. Good to meet you, Mr. Djurdjevic. Call me Dan, mate. He grins even wider. Sure, Dan. 9:50 a.m. I've been at my desk for a while, twiddling my thumbs. I've read through the induction package, which includes some very neat but largely useless items, like paperweights, letter openers, and even a desk clock, all with the McMahon's logo. I've been given one file so far, and it involves a property transfer and settlement, hardly challenging. Although in order to start working on it, I have to acquaint myself with the local conveyancing methods, which is something I don't feel like doing. I imagine Silvio can help me get started with it. But a more fundamental, far sillier problem presents itself. I have no idea where I'm meant to keep my files. At Dixon, Cox and Peters, I simply stored them in a pile next to my desk. I look out of my office door and see Silvio at his screen. Hey there, Silvio. Where do I put my files? There's no cabinet or anything, and the shelves above my desk are too narrow. Silvio looks puzzled. I handle all that, Dan. When you want a file brought to you or taken away, just call me. Ah, okay, cool. I walk back into my office and sit down. I can see this is going to take a bit of getting used to. A knock at my door startles me, and I turn round to see Ian McRae leaning on my doorframe, grinning. How's the new guy? In one languid movement he swings in and extends a hand. This time I take it with my right immediately. I'm learning. Ian not only shakes my hand, but covers both our hands with his left in an affectionate way. I meant to come down much earlier, but I got involved with a client. Couldn't be avoided. How are you, mate? All settled in?" "Yes, Ian, getting there. I really like your setup, by the way, and everyone has been so welcoming." "Good, good. Bronco's great value. And I see you've got young Silvio to help. Good stuff. You've got an excellent team." He's still holding my hand, and I'm feeling somewhat mesmerized by his unblinking gaze and the elegant lines of his square jaw. Ian McRae strikes me as the very sort of man every girl would want as a husband and every guy would want as a best friend. He seems impossibly cool. I can tell you it's going to take quite a while to get used to how well things are done here. Let's just say it was very different at Dixon's. Ian laughs and shakes his head. "Ha! Don't worry. I can believe it. Poor you. I'll tell you something, though," he says, lowering his voice almost to a whisper. "I could never understand how Dixon managed to nab CIQ as a client. That truly astounds me. In fact, it astounds us all." That would be because of me," I say. I can feel another hot flush coming on. I realize that I'm boasting. I try to fix it by adding, "I mean to say I arranged it with the help of my Uncle Frank. He was friends with your client, Picklejig." I almost said Uncle Frank was their client, a close call there. "Ah, so that's how it happened. It all makes sense now. You know we act for Woodruff Industries. Well, we've done some work for them in relation to joint ventures with CIQ, but I don't recall seeing your name on any of the documentation. All I can remember is some guy named Shitratface or something. Total idiot, as I recall. Bradley Shitterataputis, yes, he's Dixon's pet. The client was taken from me and given to him. He's been giving CIQ the runaround for the last few years. That's a major reason I wanted out. I couldn't stand being there anymore, and seeing all my hard work going down the tubes. Christ, it's a wonder Dixon's business stays afloat." He pauses for a moment. "Changing the subject, did Justine show you around?" "Yes, she did. I can't say I'll remember all the names, though." "No one expects you to, mate. Take your time. Say, you wouldn't happen to know where Justine is at the moment?" "She left the floor some time ago. Someone said she had to go to a meeting." "Ah, no worries then. It'll keep. Listen, I have to go. Any trouble? Just call me." He makes the sign of a telephone using his thumb and little finger. "My door is always open." Then he gives me another double handshake and winks affectionately. I can't decide whether I've been made a best friend or I've been manipulated by a mentalist. Something makes me suspect the latter, but I don't want to believe it. I suppose time will tell. 5:50 p.m. Silvio has helped me through the maze of Victorian idiosyncrasies when it comes to settlement. I should be a full bottle now. At the start it felt like pulling teeth, but it's always the way on your first day. At least I've started one job. The relevant requests for rates and water have gone out, and I've penned letters to the other side and the client. I've got some runs on the board, as it were. I feel like I did some work today. Jennifer Caldwell has also been in to visit and given me a security key, set me up with a car park, which I don't think I'll need, talked about my pay, workers' compensation, and so on. I've given her the details of the East Bank account, and everything is looking good. In 2 weeks' time I should have my first pay packet. Everything is going to plan. I don't intend to stay late, so I start to shut down my computer. I've actually spent most of the day trying not to think of where Justine went so abruptly. Of course, I failed miserably at this task, so I keep chastising myself inwardly for my mental weakness. I suppose that's why I found it so hard to get any work done. I feel like a lovesick schoolboy. I'm also painfully aware that, as a married man, or am I? Isn't that D1? Justine, or any other woman, should be off limits. The bigger issue is, of course, that she is clearly out of my league, and I'm out of my mind. Of course Justine is being nice. She's obviously nice to everyone. I really should accept the kindness and friendship that she offers. But I suppose infatuation is like that. You can't really control it as easily as you might imagine when you're not in its grip. The best thing I can do is go home and take a cold shower. While I'm at it, I should remember that this morning she pretty much ran off without a word. If that doesn't show a lack of interest, I don't know what does. Just as I'm thinking this, I hear the sound of her smooth newscaster-like voice outside in the paralegal area. I lean back on my chair to make sure, and I see her talking to Branca and Silvio. She looks relaxed and happy. By contrast, when she left this morning, she seemed mildly distressed. Unfortunately, she happens to look up in my direction just as I'm staring. I try to lean back towards my desk, but it's too late. She's seen me. "Hey, Dan, you're still here. Come out and have a chat." I'm wondering if she feels pressured to invite me out to their conversation. I decide I'll join them, but only for a minute or two, just to be polite, and then head off. Everyone will be happy. I finish the shutdown, switch off the screen at the wall, as Jennifer has told me, a power-saving initiative, grab my jacket and briefcase, and reluctantly head out. "So how was the first day?" Justine seems genuinely interested, her eyes wide. "Really good, very different. Silvio here was a lifesaver." Silvio just shrugs modestly. "Dan's a quick learner, and he doesn't need my help. He keeps wanting to copy stuff himself." "We never had any help at Dixon's," I reply. "Old habits are hard to break." "How did you all go today? Was your meeting productive, Justine?" "The meeting? Oh, yes. Yes, it was," Justine says. Then she shakes her head. "So many things happen in one day. You can get confused. I'm quite exhausted." "Likewise," says Branca. "My husband, he is a doctor. I go home and we both just want to sit and do nothing. We are too tired to have a life now." She laughs. "Where are you staying, Dan?" asks Silvio. "I was just telling Justine and Branca I'm house-sitting for a friend. What I didn't say is that it's like a palace, really. Never had such luxury. And I can pretty much stay as long as I like. So I'm going to head back, make myself a nice pasta primavera, feed the cat, and watch my kitchen rules." "Ha ha! My husband and I love that show. I don't think it is on tonight, though," says Branca. "Ah, that's unfortunate. I'll find something else." "Say, maybe Dan would like to come out to the Espy on Saturday." Silvio is looking up at Justine. I'm quietly starting to wish I'd made a quicker exit. "That's a marvellous idea." Justine looks up at me, eyes wide again. "Have you heard of the Esplanade Hotel in St. Kilda? It's one of our iconic pubs." "Isn't that where they film Rock Quiz?" I ask. Of course I know the answer is yes. I also know it's where the Hunters and Collectors played many of their gigs in the early years. I've never been there, but I can practically visualize each of its main venues from various YouTube videos. "Justine's brother Zah and I went to school together. Well, he's in a band and they're playing in the basement on Saturday night. We're going along to support. You should come. We can introduce you to the Melbourne nightlife." "Ah, yes, the People," I say absent-mindedly. "How did you know my brother's band was called the People?" Justine is surprised. I'm feeling the hot flush again. It's been too long a day for this sort of thing. I can't very well admit to Google stalking her and her whole family. "Well," I'm thinking as quickly as I can, "I happen to be a bit of a pub music fan, so I checked the SP website to see what they had on. I remember reading that a band called The People were playing in the basement there on Saturday. Now it seems that they actually are your brother's band. Small world, eh?" "Ah, well, that settles it. You must come along. No excuses now," says Justine. I'm pretty sure she adds the last bit because she can read my reluctant body language. "I am going too," says Branca, "and a few others. Come on, it will be fun. We don't often do office things, so we may not have another one for a while." "You're very kind, but nothing. We'll expect you there at 9. Deal?" Justine is smiling crookedly and tilting her head again. "Okay, I accept," I say, laughing. "I look forward to it. I'll just have to check the trams and stuff." I'm starting to back out of the office, waving as I do so. "Don't worry about it, mate. It's easy," says Silvio. "Look it up on the web. Plenty of trams going down St. Kilda Road." "Okay, then, will do. See you then." 7:05 p.m. I'm fingering my office security card, which hangs around my neck, as I stand at the tram station. With daylight saving, there's still plenty of light. I keep replaying the last conversation, chastising myself for being such an idiot. I really hope I haven't imposed myself. I have always tended to be too familiar. It's a real failing of mine. At the same time, it's clear that it's going to be an office get-together of sorts. How bad can it be? Maybe my attendance is even expected. At Dixon's we never socialized outside work, so it's hard to tell. In the end, I realize that the answer lies in forgetting my various faux pas with the aid of a big glass of red wine, or two. I can't seem to help being an idiot. To distract myself, I pull out my mobile and write a quick text to D1. Hey there, here's my number. Text me when you can. Had a good day, lots to talk about. Wondering how you were, thinking of you. Just got an invite to the pub on Saturday. Shame you can't go. You'll be jealous when I tell you which one. Delete my messages straight away so the missus doesn't see them, okay? D2. Just then I hear the tram pulling up, so I press send, flip my phone cover shut, and get on board, smelling the decades of oil and grease and feeling the rattle and shake as it takes off. I'm going home, whatever that means. Right now, I really don't know what I'm doing. In this place, or for that matter, in this world. I'm not even a real person. I'm just a copy of someone, and I'm doing dumb things. I can only hope tomorrow brings a clearer, more positive perspective.